everyone. Good evening and welcome to Upstart. Just giving you a brief introduction and how we are going to schedule our entire event for this today evening. And after that, we'll just start out with the main part. Upstart is a series of meetups, talks by startup founders organized by Citrus Payments. Citrus began as a startup 5 years ago. We grew from a 2-member team to a 300-member organization, and the going was not very easy for us. We've known the pains of starting up and building the right team, growing the business, finding the right team members, to building a product that has over 22 million users and powering payments to the tune of $3 billion annually. Citrus onboards thousands of startups a month, and we closely work with entrepreneurs. We get to interact a lot with them and know their startup stories, their pains, their successes, their failures, and which is why Citrus thought of coming up with this entire series of Upstart for entrepreneurs to come, to learn, to meet up, and learn from each other's experiences. Today evening, we are discussing Funding a Funda. It's all about fundraising, ultimately. We need to raise funds to grow. And we are bringing you stories of two very interesting entrepreneurs. One is Ankur Singla, who is the founder and CEO of HelpChat. Ankur is going to share a brief about his funding story. HelpChat is founded by Sequoia Capital, and Ankur is going to take you through some parts of his experiences of fundraising. And we also have Ritesh Dwivedi, who is the founder of Pay2.in. Pay2 is all about eating great food and great stories. They are funded by Axelor Ventures. Ankur would be speaking first. He wouldn't be able to stay on for the next part of the evening, which is the panel discussion, due to some personal commitments. So we'll start with Ankur's session, and then there would be a brief Q&A. Then we start the main panel discussion, where joining Ritesh from Pay2 are three people from the ecosystem who have been very, they have been very active in the things that they do, right? So we have Abhay Tandon, who heads events and partnerships at Traxon. Abhay is a startup enthusiast, and his expertise lies in investment consulting, doing strategic investment and alliances. And also joining Abhay and Ritesh is now Murakami, who is a general partner at Incubate Fund India, which is a new seed and venture capital fund backed by the famous Japanese seed fund, Incubate Fund. Also on the panel is Sharanya Ranga, partner of Advaya Legal. Sharanya is an expert in corporate and transactional law, and she works with many VC funds for the due diligence processes. The entire panel is moderated by Amit Mishra, who is the country head for F6S. It's a platform that brings together investors and startups, and a lot of fundraising and accelerator entrances do happen through F6S. So getting started with Ankur and his story about HelpChat.
Hi everyone, I'm Ankur. I think I have about 25 minutes. So the way we can do this is I'll speak for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'm happy to take questions and answer those questions. So a little bit about myself. I came to tech entrepreneurship from a slightly different direction. I'm a lawyer by background. I studied here in National Law School, graduated in 2007. My heart was set on entrepreneurship. Even while in college, I did a lot of stuff outside of the classroom. My first job was in London. I worked there for about 2 years, kind of hated it. I was in a very fancy corporate law firm, and I was earning reasonably well, but none of that actually filled in the hole that was inside me about doing something on my own. So within 2 months of the job, I realized I'll quit very quickly, so I started saving a lot of money. I saved about 14 lakhs, and I came back in 2009. My parents are in Chandigarh, so I went to Chandigarh, and I took a small room in my dad's office. My dad is a CA. And I started my first part of my journey. So this is back in 2009, July or June, and now we are in 2016. So it's been about 7 years. Very much of a roller coaster journey. We've now gotten to a point where we've raised now close to $21 million from Sequoia Capital and from RuNet. We do hope to do a lot more of that going forward as well, because our business is now growing reasonably fast. But all through that, it was a period of a lot of struggle, and I expect it to be even more struggle. In fact, life is a struggle once you're a founder, because you will have sleepless nights no matter who you are. Again, they're recording all this, so I can't be very open, but you can assume no matter how big you become, you will not be able to sleep at night, because that's the nature of being a founder and an entrepreneur. So we've also been in the news recently, we can talk about that, but I can talk a little bit more about a founder. So imagine a lawyer coming out, you don't have any, like +2 I did commerce, so again, no friends who went to IITs or were engineers. All friends are lawyers, so zero network. So I basically had a huge struggle with finding my first few tech people and then getting to a point where we raised the first amount of money. I'll give you some numbers because some of you are slightly early stage. I raised my first money, 5 lakh rupees for 50 lakh valuation. And if I tell you my valuation last year, it would be a bit, we grew from that to what we became last year was pretty intense, pretty insane. So I think one big learning for me was कि early stages में valuation doesn't really matter. I think who you take money from matters a lot more. I was very, very lucky. I took my 5 lakhs from a guy who used to tell me कि यार business ऐसे बनाओ कि you don't need somebody else's money. And he says अगर आप ऐसे business बनाओगे तो आपने अमृत पी लिया. So this guy, he no longer is part of the startup ecosystem, but he was the sort of guy who used to say, build your business, money will find you. And it's easy to say, very tough to do. And this is back in 2009, 10, 11, when we were struggling. और लोगों की funding होती है तो बड़ी जलन होती है कि यार ये क्या है, इसमें क्या बड़ी बात है, ये तो copy paste है, ये है, वो है. So you are frustrated as a single, lonely founder in a room. And I spent that, well, I wasn't frustrated honestly, because कुछ ना कुछ होता जा रहा है, तो मतलब you're making progress every day, but it did pinch that यार, why not me? It's like, I think some of you might be young. Anyway, there was an ad like that, VIP Frenchie की एक ad होती थी. I don't know if you guys know. उसमें ऐसा क्या है जो मुझ में नहीं है. But I don't know how many of you know this, but अगर ad देखी होगी तो आपको पता होगा. But anyway, so you get that feeling कि यार ऐसा क्या हो रहा है. और सबसे बड़ी learning जो I felt, which I think I never understood till we got there, was that everything is about product market fit. People say IIT, college, ye, wo, kaun hai, kaun kisko janta hai. None of that stuff matters. Actually, the toughest part about building a business is to find a good product market fit. And it is genuinely tough. When you have a good product market fit, money will come, you will find a wind behind your back. Till you don't find a good product market fit, you will face an uphill struggle. But the only way to find a good product market fit is to actually keep walking up. And you will find that at some point. We took close to 6 years. We were doing various businesses, but it took us almost 5 years to find something which was a huge market, and we found something that was really resonating with customers, and we grew very, very fast, and that attracted funding and so on and so forth. So that's the story. I think along the way we pivoted twice, which was again to find a bigger and better product market fit over time. Every learning that we had doing whatever we were doing at that point helped us get to the next point. One other piece of advice regarding funding that I got, which was actually, I felt pretty important, is that it is very, very important for you to have a good equation with whoever funds you in the early days. Because they are the guys who will go and pitch for you with other investors, other VCs, and so on. So that is the reason why it is very important to have the right guys in place, and also very important to make sure that you share enough data, enough perspective, enough challenges that you're facing in the business with them, so that they, have respect for you, that you're struggling and you're working at it. B, when they go and pitch to somebody else, they're able to pitch the business in a very sound manner, and they say, hey, this guy is really good, you should definitely meet him. And then after the meeting, the rest is upon the entrepreneur and the next investor and so on. So in our case, it actually happened. My first investor, angel guy, I met at a Thai event in 2009, and then in 2011, I raised a little bit of money from him. And then he introduced me to a large fund, they invested, then another angel came in, and then further. So har ek cheez was based on introductions, based on your current investors. Not everybody's story is the same, but if you could maintain awesome relationships with your current investors, make sure that they are regularly updated and passionate about your business, you will find that fundraising becomes easier, and so on. I think I'll take questions because, again, the audience is very varied, and it's been some time. In fact, I've really reduced going to events. So there was a time when I used to really go out. I have attended like some maybe 15, 20 startup Saturdays. Month में एक बार होता था, जाता था, मिलता था, ये है वो है. But I think now the learning curve is more inside the company, more challenges. So I may not be able to talk about stuff that you guys want to hear about. So yeah, let's do Q&A. We will have about 15, 20 minutes. HelpChat, again, if you want to know, HelpChat is a personal assistant. We thought chat would be the way to do it. It turns out chat is actually a slower form of doing it. So now we moved the model away to something which simply gets things done as a personal assistant by simply clicking on stuff. So that's what is the vision, and that is what we are building. Can we start with the, do you have another mic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, one question that we get from investors is, when we go with the minimum viable product, the first thing that they ask us, how is your product different from others? What is the differentiation you bring? With a minimum viable product, how do we answer this question?
Yeah, so a minimum viable product and a differentiation are actually completely different from each other. I think they are looking for a minimum viable product for them to see evidence of the fact that you can create something. The fact that it would differentiate slightly later or it would differentiate in a certain manner is something you can still answer. So I wouldn't treat one as a problem to do the other. So I don't think there is any difficulty in you being able to say that a product is differentiated just because you don't have the product ready. So मान लो कोई हमसे पूछता है यार आप में और Google Now में क्या फर्क है, right? It may not be very different today, and the tech may not be as sexy today, but I know that there is a path to get there, and this is why I feel we'll beat them in 5 different ways. So that answer you have to have. There is no excuse for not knowing that. And that is also a function of how well you think about the product market fit. Because ultimately, talent और ability में इतना delta नहीं है लोगों में. मतलब जो बहुत ऊपर हैं, जो बहुत नीचे हैं, इतना ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं है. अगर आप passionate हो, कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा. The only difference is the quality of their product market fit. Did they find a problem big enough which became also very relevant? There's a little bit of luck, timing involved, but actually it is product market fit.
Startup India has the tax on your investment. The tax on the investments, what you get. Can you just elaborate how much you actually get in the bank after startup, after April 1st?
Yeah, so all our investments happened before that from the angel perspective. VC investments are excluded from. So his question is, I haven't followed up on that piece of law which was enacted that if you raise valuation, if you raise money at a valuation which is considered above market multiples, it would be considered as revenue in your hands. That is the part you were talking about, and then revenue, if you don't spend, would get taxed as corporate income. Again, I don't want to go deeper into that. From my perspective, none of this shit matters in life. जो भी आ रहा है वो बहुत बड़ी बात है. 1 करोड़ आ रहा है. मतलब I wouldn't know the answer. What I'm trying to say, यार, in larger scheme of things doesn't matter. Right? Tax देते हैं, खाना खाते हैं, मतलब सब कुछ जो भी होगा होगा. I think the key is you raise money, you survive, you build a bigger business over time. And now we are at a stage where all our money is from venture capital. Venture capital is excluded from all of these restrictions. I am sure lawyers would have figured out some hack for even this one, and one of which is probably to tranche it or to spend it or whatever else. I don't have a good handle on it. There were some people at the back. Yeah. Do you have a
It's
mic?
just a common question that you being from a non-technical background, and how did you start developing your app? Means did you get it done from somebody else, or did you got your team? And one more thing, at what stage did you get funded? Did you show some traction, market traction to the investor, or did you get it funded on ideation stage? This question.
Yeah, so you're taking me back to the very early days. So मेरे को टेक के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं था. So I hired my first MCA from DU for 25,000 rupees. I sat with him and I started understanding कैसे होता है, मतलब लैम्प स्टैक क्या होता है. उस टाइम मोबाइल तो कुछ था नहीं 2009 में, तो लैम्प स्टैक क्या होता है, PHP में कोड कैसे लिखा जाता है, फ्रंट एंड बैक एंड वैलिडेशन, ये वो काफ़ी कुछ उससे समझा. Then he left. आई वाज पेइंग हिम 25,000, उसको 8 लाख की जॉब मिल गई भुवनेश्वर में. सो ही लेफ्ट. क्या करें भैया, मम्मी कह रहे हैं जाओ यार. तो like you can't help it, right? And you're frustrated that यार इतनी fight मार के लेके आए हैं. So actually I wrote a blog post on it long time ago called Saath Developer Maaf, because we had gone through 7 developers and then 8th time I just outsourced it. It was a pretty bad time. So it's not easy. I don't generally recommend lawyers to do tech entrepreneurship, but I wanted to do it very badly because in a way in law I had been at the top, so there was nothing to go back to. Like मेरे पास चॉइस नहीं थी एक्चुअली मैं क्या करूँगा लाइफ में, तो आई वांटेड टू डू दिस. सो दैट वाज वन. सेकंड इज एक टाइम आया, उस टाइम हम काफ़ी अलग अलग चीज़ें कर रहे थे, तो आई वेंट एंड टुक द्रुपल क्लासेस. यार द्रुपल में थोड़ा PHP का हैक लिख के इसको मॉडिफाई करके हमारी वेबसाइट रेडी हो जाएगी. कंटेंट भी मैं ही लिख रहा था, तो मैंने बड़ा कुछ फिगर आउट किया टू अ पॉइंट वेयर आई एटलीस्ट फील एंड आई थिंक इट इज़ ट्रू नाउ दैट आई कैन हैव अ रीजनेबली गुड कॉन्वर्सेशन विद अ टेक पर्सन. And that is of the essence, and it is needed if you want to run a tech company. So I think that is something that I paid my dues for the first 2-3 years, and I learned and I can now do. Then came a point in our company where the point was that, I said, let's outsource it. At least the tech will start getting built. But even in the outsourced company, I gave them equity so that they don't behave like a traditional outsourcing firm. So I gave them a little bit of equity. Then a year later, a time came where we were meeting some investor and they said, look, it will be very difficult for us to fund you unless you have a proper tech guy. So this is in April 6, 2012. And the reason I remember is we had a meeting and they said, boss, you've got to find a CTO. And I said, okay, fine. So on April 6th, I started looking for CTOs. We hired some firms. I went to LinkedIn, did a lot of stuff. And I did 109 pitches, interviews to candidates. And one or two was working out, and with everybody you would pitch with passion, this is going to be a big business, we are really into it, and so on and so forth. So ultimately hua kya, after I had done those 108 interviews I had done, 109th guy actually just came to our website. He had a complaint. Those days we were doing customer complaint resolution. He had a complaint. He came to file his complaint. He filed it, and then he saw an ad for head of engineering. He clicked on it, applied, and then we spoke, and I hired him. So, it was basically हुआ luck से, but उससे पहले 108 की मेहनत हो गई थी. तो maybe you have to work hard, but a lot of the stuff happened in my life through, sheer serendipity and so on. So, the answer is, यार, it is doable. कुछ rocket science नहीं है. Honestly, मतलब जो हम websites, apps वगैरह बनाते हैं, उसमें इतनी rocket science नहीं है, but you have to have some detailed orientation.
Can I ask one more question?
Just a follow-up or different?
Yeah, follow-up. It's a follow-up.
Follow-up,
Normally, the people who outsource your application or something like that, these days they need website and mobile application both, kind of. So they ask for equity. So how much is it, a single digit?
Yeah, so we gave 5% and 45,000 rupees retainer.
Oh, thank
और
you,
उस टाइम बैंक में 6 लाख रुपए थे.
Oh, thank you.
तो आपको
That's what I needed.
इससे ज़्यादा और क्या?
I have it. Since it's a fund.
And it was a good thing to do. Without equity, it is a bad idea to outsource as a startup. And that guy made a lot of money on the equity that he had in our company.
Okay. Since it's a funding related, so I want to keep it to the funding related question. So we had this startup idea, and by the time we took the courage to jump into the startup and start it, by then in market some other people already floated this idea, and they gone in. So we are specifically into retail services e-com, and since already somebody started, now if we have to pitch to the investor, it's really difficult to convince them that it's a new idea that we have come up with, since already some people are there and they are already well funded. So how is investors going to get convinced that yes, we will, we also can do it, because we are confident and we have a best idea. But then since already big time investors are into something, so
So the question, if I were to summarize it, is that how do you get funding if you already have well-funded competitors in the market?
Yes.
It is tough. Okay, it is not going to be easy. I think typically what ends up happening is that if you are in a stage where there's already a lot of funding, the best idea for you would be that if you are the 6th company to do X and therefore look for funding, chances of getting funding or the quality of funding is likely to be poor. होता क्या है, ironically जिन्होंने पैसे उठा लिए होते हैं वो फिर mistakes करना शुरू कर देते हैं, and their mistakes are usually more expensive. So I'll give you an example, and you guys can probably guess, actually may not be able to guess, but there is somebody who really went out and tried to get funding. उसको मिली 1 million. एक और कंपनी है जिसको मिली 16 मिलियन 16 मिलियन एंड द 16 मिलियन कंपनी इज नाउ शट एंड द 1 मिलियन कंपनी इज लाइक गोइंग एट इट बिल्डिंग गुड रेवेन्यूज एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ सो and that's all you can tell yourself. Or ideally, you would also be the like to be the guy with 16 million. But once you're too late to the party, then you might as well enjoy alone and figure it out. There's no ilaj. कोई इसका इलाज नहीं है. So I wouldn't obviously tell you that because then you can guess it. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I take the question?
Yeah. So the question is regarding taking investment from bankers versus, let's say, entrepreneurs.
Bankers मतलब?
Means VC firms versus entrepreneurs. Means considering particularly for tech companies as an if enterprise idea.
So everything that I'm talking about is assuming tech startups only. Because these learnings may not transport very well for an offline company. Definitely you need. So actually that question it doesn't really generally arise because the entrepreneur angel funders come in much earlier than a VC would. So ideally on your cap table you should have people who were entrepreneurs earlier or are entrepreneurs and invest in you at the angel stage. And then at later stage a VC should come in. It's not an either or in my mind. Definitely you should try to get some money from angels early on because it helps to have people who understand your business, but you don't need to give them board seats. Good entrepreneurs will not even ask for it. Ultimately your destiny will be shaped by yourself, but it is, so I'll again, one practical thing, there is always a slight amount of difference between going to somebody just for general advice versus getting them to invest and then taking advice from them. The slight amount of negative, sometimes they might be more about preservation of their own capital, but 99% of the time, it actually is good because it gives you access to them. You can actually write them an email, मेरे को मिलना है, मेरी हालत खराब है, मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रहा क्या कर रहा है, जैसे आजा मिल ले, बैठ जाते हैं, and then you can kill some of your demons in your own mind. Okay, how are you doing on time?
I just have a small question. Yeah, hi.
Yeah, can you tell me the time, please? Okay, we have 10 minutes, sorry, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to know, from a minimal viable project, for product, to arrive at the stage of market fit, like when do we feel the product has reached market fit and what do we need to do for that?
I got it. It's like falling in love. Nobody knows कि ये क्या है, इसको प्यार कहते हैं, लड़की ने ऐसे देखा, इसका कोई आंसर नहीं है. आप जाओगे 10 मीटिंग में जाओगे, B2B कर रहे हो, 10 मीटिंग अटेंड करो, he is willing to pay for your product, अगली मीटिंग में जा रहे हो, 2 फंडे और पेल दिए, वो सब करोगे आपको दिखना शुरू हो जाएगा, सेल आ रही है चल जाएगा. B2C में हो, नंबर्स बढ़ रहे हैं, तो यार मतलब nobody can. I hope all of you understand this much of Hindi, but I am from Chandigarh and Delhi, so sometimes I slip into my Hindi. But what I'm saying is there is no right answer for it. You know it when it is true. And typically, I think because we want it to be true, we sometimes kid ourselves that it is true. And that is also a good thing. And that is what, like, for Steve Jobs, they call it reality distortion field. वो क्या है, झूठ है कि नहीं ये सच नहीं है, but मैंने reality distort कर ली है. That is also important. But again, obviously, there are people who have their heads in the sand or in the clouds and they don't understand कि भाई ये नहीं चल रहा. Customers are trying to tell you that this is fuck all, we don't want it. Yeah, be very, very open to what people are saying. So there's a very, very different thing in B2B versus B2C. B2B is all about listening to your customers and making sure. So there are actually now, it has been reduced to a science, right? So you have Lean Startup Movement, Eric Rice की book है, वो पढ़ लो. There is another one, which is that 8-step का map है. Same guy, another guy, Steve Blank has written something, customer development methodology. Have you guys heard of all this? A canvas. So yeah, okay, if you haven't heard, then please go and read these two. They will literally, this has now been reduced to a method. So there is Eric Rice's Lean Startup Movement. How do you run a lean startup and still find a good product market fit? And the other one is Steve Blank's, if I'm getting the names right, the customer development canvas or methodology. So use that, you will know the answer.
Ankur, hi.
Hi.
Do you do angel investments?
यार मैंने 2-3 किए हैं, सारी हालत खराब सी है उनकी, तो मेरे से पैसे, I don't know यार, it's a very tough thing to do. Like getting it right is very tough to do. So what I've done is, मेरे को लगता है कि सिर्फ सारी बात फाउंडर पे है, तो I don't care about the idea, I don't care about anything else. फाउंडर में मतलब वो होनी चाहिए फीलिंग कि यार ये 10-15 साल 20 साल लगेंगे और अच्छी कंपनी बनानी है और टाइम लगेगा. तो I look for that, but I don't have too much money to invest. So I'm usually कि यार थोड़े से पैसे हैं, लेने हैं ले लो, but बंदा बढ़िया है, मिल के मजा आएगा, जो भी चाहिए, मतलब whatever I can help I do. So I do make it, but not too many. I'm not an active angel investor.
Okay, so what's the best way to reach you?
यार email पे ले लो. नहीं, ankur@helpchat.in. You can reach me. I'm not active. I'll be honest, I'm not active, but very happy to meet and help. So, I wish I could have stayed and answered more questions. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Ankur, till you pack your bag, I like your lecture very much. You know, जब यहाँ पे आते हैं ना, we get very depressed. And I think I have half funded today.
अरे
after hearing you.
आप one thing, okay, so I'll tell you something. यार बड़ी tough journey है, but फैमिली को अपनी तरफ रखो. अगर मैरिड हो तो वाइफ को खुश रखो कि ये होगा, क्योंकि अगर उनकी सपोर्ट नहीं है तो बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है. लोन वोन मत लेना, होम लोन कभी भी मत लेना, गाड़ी का लोन तो लेने का सवाल ही नहीं है. और 8-10 साल, 12 साल, 20 साल लगेंगे, तो लाइफस्टाइल चॉइस है, ये करते रहो, कुछ ना कुछ तो हो ही जाएगा, मतलब कोई टेंशन ही नहीं है. ठीक है, ओके.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ankur. Up next, we have Ritesh. Ritesh coming and speaking about his funding experience.
Hi, am I audible? Yeah. Okay, so see, when I made an exit, there are two emotions which you can have. One is logical, one is emotional. You know? So when you are starting a business, you should keep your emotions in your pocket. It doesn't matter, it has no value. So when you make an exit, I realized that the emotions need to be in my pocket. I don't need to worry about it. So it was completely in the hands of the guys who were overtaking me, taking the reins from my hand. And it's now their baby, their problem. Good luck. There are many examples to prove that it works. You take you take examples of the Tatas or any of the large companies, right? So they are run by professional people. They are not run by the founders themselves. So there are examples where it can work. In startups specifically, it's a little difficult because an employee I have seen does not have the same motivation or urgency to keep the cash flow in check, keep the problems away, keep your employees motivated. That's a little difficult to do. And when you're doing it day in and day out for a very long time, it actually burns you down. So in startups, it's a little difficult. You need to be really, really motivated to be able to build someone else's baby. But it is possible, yes. If you take examples of rocket companies, that is essentially the problem which they face because they are not run by the founders. They are run by hired employees. Rocket Internet's portfolios. Just Eat was always negative, and it will continue to be negative for years altogether, till the time there is only one player left in the market. In case of Pay2, the operating margins are very attractive. We are at around 40% operating margin, yes, which we believe is excellent to have.
Okay, we now need to start with the panel discussion. Requesting Ritesh to get on the stage. Sorry. Now, Abhay and Sharanya, please come forward. And over to you, Amit.
Thanks, Mabel. So hi guys, my name is Amit Mishra. I will be the moderator and not the Gyani guy here. I'm on your side, so don't ask any questions to me, right? Redirect to them. So we'll give you a quick background on what I do. I work with F6S. How many people know about F6S here? Okay, reasonable number of bunch. So F6S is the largest network for startups. We work with every accelerator, almost every fund uses us for, including NASCOM, uses us for their deal flow and the entire system. What we do basically is trying to enable we try to aggregate everything which enables startups to take the next big leap, getting into an accelerator, getting into an angel fund. And it's a global platform. I head India for them, which means I take care of all the relationships, everything, sales and everything here. Right, so I know two of them and I know Ankur because we have the same hometown from Chandigarh, right? So I'll start with a quick experience, right? It's a very funny experience, and then I'll probably ask everyone to introduce themselves and probably share one interesting, funny, not so funny experience about how they were probably talked to. I think only Ritesh is the only guy who raised funds, right? Everybody else have been the other side of the table. So what has been your experience, especially when you're talking to entrepreneurs or investors in terms of funding, right? So I get a lot of requests from entrepreneurs who wanted me to connect them with investors. So one funny example which I can probably share is that there was this guy who reached out to Throye's book and told me, sir, I want to raise funds. I said, if you can share some details about your company, I'll probably can help you. So he said, after 10 days, he sent me a deck. The last 5 slides were blank. Right, then he started calling me. He got my number from somewhere. He started calling me, spammed me. Then I took his call and said that, what can I do? He said, so paise kab mil rahe? Right, so that was his first line, right? Sir, paise kab mil rahe? I said, have you created a product? Said, no. मुझे लगा आपको deck भेज दिया है, पैसे मिल जाएंगे, right? So people have all these interesting things in mind that it's so simple, right? I think one thing which you will probably realize with both the entrepreneurs who have shared their experiences is that it's a tough journey. It's a very, very tough journey, right? We talk more about the funding they have raised, but he has been at it for 10 years, right? Ankur, I know, have been at it for 7 years. So it's a very tough, long, single-man journey for most of them because the founders have their own problems internally and externally, right? So introduce yourself. Talk about one experience, and then we can probably jump into more questions.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sharanya. I'm actually, I guess, the odd woman out here because I'm not an entrepreneur in the technical sense. I'm a corporate commercial lawyer. I'm a partner with a law firm called Advaya Legal. We work with startups, investors in the startup ecosystem, lot of tech-related advisory, etc. Basically, the legal aspects relating to companies and their transaction support in terms of due diligence, investment term sheets, documentation, shareholders agreements. Now doing quite a bit of mergers and acquisitions, even in the domestic market. Besides startups, I personally also work with quite a few multinational companies and bigger conglomerates, which our firm does assist. But I guess personally for me, it's very fulfilling in the startup space because you get to do a lot more. It's like a 360-degree involvement wherein you also kind of counsel the promoter, the founders, or the angel investor, depending on who you're representing. Whereas if we are doing a matter or if we are assisting, say, a big conglomerate, invariably their legal teams would be there. There would be like a 6-7 member legal counsel team, and they would come to us for really one question, right, or one specific legal opinion, and you wouldn't even know what happens post, we send the email out. So in that sense, with startups, you're more involved from the beginning, decision making is there, you also get to learn a lot about how businesses are run, etc. So for me, it's personally quite exciting to work with startups and, of course, the young minds interaction, etc.
One experience which you want to share with startup or some investor?
Well, I think something very similar. A lot of times we keep getting asked what are the common terms, to agree to in a term sheet, etc. And there was one, I don't want to name the company. We had given a fee quote for this company, and he said, it's too, whatever, I can't afford it. And he went and signed the document, and he told me, of course, the founder, he was a good friend. He told me, my investors told me to just sign it, so I'm signing it. I told him it's quite one-sided, so perhaps you at least would, you would be better off just looking at some of the terms and understanding your risks, right? And what happened sadly was after 3 to maybe 6 months, this happened 2-3 years back, 6 months or so, he came back and, somehow the investor and his relationship soured, and they really negotiated an exit, and that time he engaged us. So that was, of course, this is something I keep mentioning in quite a few startup forums and sessions for startup founders to be careful and read before you sign what you end up with. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nao Murakami, and I'm from the Incubate Fund, India. And actually, Incubate Fund is the largest leading seed round investor in Japan, and we invested more than 200 companies in Japan and also in Southeast Asia. And now we are setting up the separate fund, which is only focusing on Indian startups, and I'm a general partner of the fund. And we are going to be active next month, so we are going to, now I'm searching the, the potential nice startup to be invested. So,
One is sitting next to you.
hope so. Actually, it was really fun to be here. You learned about how the unit economics is running on this field, and you are now specialist in this field. So.
You got your Japanese money up, so
and before I become a venture capitalist, I was an investment banker for like 6 years in Tokyo and New York, and the tech and internet startup coverage banker for like 6 years. And I was advising for like, almost every year, like more than 300 companies I was meeting, and some companies are listed, and some companies sold their company as an exit. And after that, I came to India actually 2 years back, and I was running my own startup in Delhi, which is actually really similar to Urban Club, HouseJoy, this like service commerce type of business. And I realized that there's too much competition, like you guys, they already raised like 20-40 million USD, and they're far away from us. And we're trying to be differentiate our business from them, but our market is too niche. So actually, I'm stepping away from the director role, and now I'm focusing on the investor. This is me. And the experience, right? Okay.
some experience in Japan also.
Okay. Actually, before I came to India, I was advisor for the many startups, and I was, helping them to raise the fund or, trying to help them to grow. And after I came here, and I started up my own startup in Delhi, and our company trying to raise the fund in Delhi, and I met some investors there, and actually some investors asking me so many questions, and I was feeling, why you guys are asking this type of stupid questions. And after I came back to my home at night, I realized that, these questions were actually exactly the same thing I was asking to my clients in Japan, actually. So most of the cases, if you guys feel, the investors are asking why you guys are asking this type of questions, most of the cases, they have some reasons to ask the questions. So be patient and try hard to answer all the questions as possible. But sometimes two stupid questions are existing. In this case, maybe you guys are not much to this type of investors, so you can just forget about it. But most of the cases they have a reason to ask. So be patient and answer as many as possible. It's gonna be good.
I have already spoken a lot with the investors. Okay. The first investor who actually invested in us, he was an angel investor, and apart from Indian Angel Network, we also raised money from one individual. He was a very tough negotiator, and what he did was that he asked us that which are the restaurants you have worked with, and he also asked us to share some data on the customer side. So we shared that, and then he interestingly made calls and visits to all those restaurants, and to check out that whether this is a serious business or not. And a lot of restaurants actually told that it's a time pass hai. Because it was in 2007-8, right? So nobody understood. Even the restaurants didn't value the internet then. And then he came back to us and said, the restaurants don't value you much. So then I said, no, wait, I'll give you another set of numbers. And before I did that, I actually made call to all those restaurants that, boss, help karo yaar. And that's how we got the first investment.
Hi everyone. I'm Abhay. I represent Traction, so I'm heading partnerships and events at Traction. Apart from that, I'm also a startup mentor. I've been in the ecosystem for about 2.5, 3 years in the investment ecosystem as an entrepreneurial ecosystem, as I put it across. I'm not really sure how many of you have heard of Traction. If you have not, I'll just give you a basic understanding of what Traction does. We are a market intelligence platform. Apart from that, we also have our own fund that we invest into companies, of course. Interesting companies, as Ankur had mentioned. Then we also have our investor network with quite a lot of investors. So we invest into companies again. And we also help angel investors get their exit through our division called as Traction Secondary by institutional investors. So this is about Traction and interesting experience. So my experience in the last 2.5 years, I've had quite a few interesting experiences interacting with both investors and startups. So I'll cover one on the startup side. So recently I was, a mentor at TapChief, and one of the calls that I got, so a lot of calls coming in from students these days, IITs, NITs, BEDs, and so on. So one of these guys had a question, they were trying to pitch to me, so they ran through the whole deck. So there's the whole thing, pitch karna hai, pitch kiya. But then what happens at the end of the pitch? So the last slide was blank. And I was like, okay, and they didn't know what to answer. So I said, chalo, theek hai, let me ask. So I asked them, are you looking at raising funds? Are you looking at mentoring? What are you looking at? There has to be a reason why you're pitching to me. And they said, we're raising funds. And I'm like, how much? So interestingly, he said $1 to $2 million. And I was like, okay, $1 to $2 million ka kya matlab hota? It's 1 million or 2 million. What is $1 to $2 million? Ready, we are getting there, but we'll come to know in a few days. I was like, okay, theek hai, no problem. Kuch socha hai ki matlab kyun chahiye? What's the usage of funds? And that guy was blank for 10 seconds. I was like, okay, theek hai, you'll get to that as well, theek hai. Kuch equity dilution, kitna soch rahe ho tum log? He was like, 5%? And the reason I found it a little funny was because he told me the product is not ready yet. There's no MVP yet. And he said 5%. I was like, 5 or 10% kuch bola tha. And I was like, what do you think your post-val is or pre-val is right now? वो calculate कर लेंगे. So when, I find a lot of entrepreneurs, probably it could be that they still haven't got the exposure yet in terms of, what do they need to pitch to investors. But they get there, they're very excited, they're very passionate. But a lot of things, and probably this is my perspective, Ankur could have a different perspective on this. But when you're going to the investor, you have to have a few things ready with you, because they're definitely going to ask you a few questions. Not everything could be as meaningful to your company, and it depends upon the stage of the company. But try and be as prepared as you can in terms of even the financial numbers. At least have a basic idea about that. Just going there just because you're passionate about an idea and expecting it to really scale up and getting money from the investors from that perspective is something that's not justified, right? Even they have to invest their own money into you guys, and they expect a ROI on that, right? क्यों लगाएंगे पैसा? उनको भी तो पैसा बनाना है ना at the end of the day. So when they ask you certain questions, you have to be a little prepared around that. So go a little more prepared. That shows a lot of seriousness in you guys, that you have forecasted something. Your business model might pivot, but still at the end of the day, you have thought around what you want to do, at least in the next 6 months, if not next 3 years. 6 महीने में क्या plan कर रहे, क्यों कर रहे, why do you want to achieve that? That kind of stuff.
Right. So I think one point which I probably ask everyone to kind of look at is that, Abhay rightly said that the market research, right, the homework sometimes is not there, right? And I think most of the people who pitch, right, only look at your story and Inc42, right, and ET. That's not your market research. You need to understand your industry also, because the smart investors would know what to ask, right? The dumb investors, I think should not speak to, right? So you need to do your homework in terms of what sector you are in, because even if you don't know the sector, if you're not from the industry, but if you are committed to learn more, and if you will see, right, Ankur is still reading a lot of things, right? And he's still keeping himself updated even after 7 years. And he has been doing PHP, learning PHP in the first 3 years. He has done his tech. He's still reading. So it's a continuous journey where we need to learn and then keep updating ourselves, because there are a lot smarter people we need to also hire and work with, right? So what is the homework you think people should do while they are reaching out to investors? Probably from there, at least they are comfortable with the numbers. And what kind of typical questions from the homework side? Let's talk about this from the homework side for the funding. What people should look at. Probably now you can give an idea, and then Ritesh can.
Okay. So for the homework, I already met I think like 50 to 60 startups here in Bangalore, and they pitched to me so many times, and most of the cases some companies are missing the page which is analyzing the competitive analysis actually, and many companies says we are the best. Of course, they are pitching. So you guys are best, and the market size is this big, and our growth plan is like this. But once I ask them the question, okay, who is a competitor? In what ways? And how you guys are compete with them? How you guys are differentiating from them? These are actually what I really want to know. And sometimes I ask them the question, okay, who is a competitor? And they says, okay, no competitor at all. And this could not happen. There should be in some ways, there will be a competitor. And I really want to know how you guys are, differentiating from them, and what's, the point to, you guys can compete with them. So this is actually, I really want to see from the, pitch.
Yes, so there are a couple of things which if I would look at. So one is that every entrepreneur should prepare a financial model for sure. It's a different thing that I don't look at the financial model once they send it to me because it's generally bullshit. But the idea is that, like you were saying, right, the person should have spent considerable amount of time researching the space, finding out the unit economics, finding out the cost of acquiring a customer, finding out how much you can scale and what is the challenges which you'll face when you scale. So these at least give an idea that yes, you are serious about your business. Competitive analysis is extremely, extremely crucial. Even before you start, you should be aware of who your competitors are. Like you said, I don't know of any space where there aren't any competitors. Right? So there has to be competitors. If there are no competitors, then you are fooling yourself. So those are typical things which you should be aware of even before you are pitching to an investor.
Yep. Sharanya, from the legal side, what are the probably things we should look at? Before going to the investor.
Yeah, couple of things. One, of course, you may also want to add, but one is to have as clean a cap table as possible. That is basically when we are approached by either a funder or an investor to close the funding transaction, we hear a lot of there is a lot of discussions about how the founder has given X percentage to some family and friends and some other person who has been helping him in an informal basis, but then that person is an employee of some other multinational bound by some other non-compete provision where he can't technically be engaged in any kind of support to another company. So you see, all this is fine in an informal setting, but when it comes to the documentation and when it comes to who actually owns equity in the company, then it really poses quite a bit of complications, right? So one is, of course, to have a clean, neat cap table as far as possible. Second is to put your basic books and papers and documentation in order. So even you don't need to actually do an elaborate due diligence. And obviously, we understand when you start up, your focus is on building the business. The last attention, your last bit of attention would really be on compliance, rightfully so. And nobody would really want to, honestly, supposedly waste money on lawyers and CS, which is all fine. But this really, if you could do small things one at a time and at least get the books in order pre-funding, it saves a lot of time and heartburn at a later stage. So that would be one, the second thing. And third is just be aware of basic terms relating to the investment round, relating to the term sheet process, in terms of founder rights, your lock-in, something like anti-dilution, etc., agreeing for something like a full ratchet, and then understanding it as a weighted average, etc., can actually really backfire on the founder, in the long term.
A lot of times people promise that I'll give you X equity, but that is not followed up with the paperwork, and that generally results in a lot of heartburn. So if you are onboarding some employee or a co-founder, you need to make sure that you have the necessary agreements in place before you reach out to any investor, because then it generally becomes a challenge after implementing after an investor comes in.
Right. So there is a lot of ho-halla about the Startup India, Make in India and all that, right? And I think we probably should touch upon that also, because the government is trying to do a lot of stuff, right? What are the things probably we should look at? So I'm not sure if everybody has read the policy. Probably I'm the only one, because I have to deal with government day in, day out. But there are a lot of interesting things which probably I can share, and then probably I will like to ask you. So see, the Startup India thing is how many of you have read the draft, the startup policy draft? Okay, two guys. Right, so there are a lot of interesting things which the startup policy thing has had, that you get a lot of these freebies, right? You don't need to pay taxes and all that. One important thing from the funding aspect, which is also happening, is that the government has started a fund for funds, which is they are putting money in VC firms who are super active right now and want to invest the funds further on to startups, because the government has forcefully mandated them that they need to invest. Like, so for example, there is an investment firm in Gurgaon which was probably investing once every quarter. They're investing 2 startups every week now, right? That's a kind of numbers which I'm talking about. The second thing is that the government has also literally forced banks to give 2 loans to entrepreneurs every year, right? So we have, and every branch actually. So we are talking about 1,25,000 branches, bank branches, and everybody giving a lot of money, right? So it's not only VCs, it's not only angels, right? So there are a lot of other sources also where the loans which were taken earlier, right, are more easy to get, because these guys have these mandates, they need to do this, right? So you just need to identify the right, and all these banks are very startup friendly now. So you can reach out to them and they will be happy to help in terms of how they can also help you raise funds, right? So they have now, I think all these guys have startup branches, right? So you can reach out to ICACI and all these state run banks also. Let's probably jump into more specifics, right? In terms of after the fundraise happened, right? I think there were some questions where should I have a company registered to raise funds, or should I just start talking and then do the due diligence?
So one, the policy, of course, talks about, a company, an LLP, and a partnership deed, partnership firm as the entities which qualify for the startup definition. Besides that, if you're looking at raising funds through the VC route, then invariably, a private limited company is one of the preferred vehicles. This is because of the range of instruments, typically, when the VC phase started out in India a few years back, equity shares would be the main form of investment. However, now it's really a combination. Investors prefer a combination of preference and what is known as hybrid instruments, sometimes compulsory debentures, convertible debentures, etc., and some amount of equity. So, if you are looking at your exit, structuring your options, your founder rights, your cap table, structuring, all of this is possible fairly easily in a private limited company, as against a partnership or a limited liability partnership. Partnership firm also is not technically considered a legal entity, right? It's really just 2 individuals coming together, 2, 3. So ideally you have a private limited company or an LLP. Now, of course, the government has also opened up the foreign direct investment in LLPs, but invariably the way we look at it, you would always have a private limited company preferred for VC investments. You want to add the VC perspective?
I think she almost covered everything. Actually, yeah, private limited is actually far much better for the VCs, because so many options we can take. So yeah, actually from the VC side, no other way to get better funding from the VC actually. So it's gonna be better to the private.
Right, so let's open it for questions. I think it will be better if we can probably have more specific questions from people who are trying to raise funds.
I think you can register it even today. You can incorporate the company and you should have a turnover of under 25 crores and the company should not be incorporated before 5 years. So, yeah.
Hi. Oops, sorry, that was quite loud. I have two questions. I'll probably go one after other. So first one is, I think there was a reference about outsourcing in the tech startup world. So the first question is, if you are a tech startup, you have a small team, but also outsource for equity, right? Because you want to accelerate the development of the product. So how would a VC look at that? Is that something that is acceptable for a tech startup?
So you mean you outsource some, the development and also the engineering side to some other companies outside of your company
For
and
equity.
give some equity for them?
Right.
You mean some sweat equity type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, how I see. It's, I think, depends on the VC to VC, investor to investor, but I personally don't much prefer this type of things. Actually, if it's a really early stage, it's gonna be fine. But for contacting to like VCs in seed round and also for the Series A round, I think most of the engineering team and development team should be in-house. It's gonna be better because in this internet and tech space, the PDCA cycle, plan to see action cycle should be really quickly, cycle should be really quick. And once we find some modification is needed, it should be done by tomorrow morning, for example. So if also some parts, this cycle will be really slowing down. And as an investor, I don't prefer this type of things, but I think this type of things can be depends on the BC to BC. So it's pretty much depends. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. On the same lines, more focused on the customer acquisition cost, right? There was a reference about it being so high. So if you have some kind of a royalty arrangement with maybe somebody who's in a similar field or an extendable field, and you want to tap into their customer base more strategically, and hence you've kind of got into some kind of a royalty arrangement. Now again, how would you look at that from a VC perspective? Would that be an expense, and is it okay, or would there be?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you actually. So
Sure. So what I mean is, while you want to acquire customers, there are multiple ways to do that, right? One is to spend your own money and acquire, or probably you tie up somebody who probably has access to a customer which might be interested in what you're selling, and because that person or that industry or the company would give you access, right? You would probably give some royalty from your revenues and things like that, right? So is that okay from a VC perspective? Would that be treated as another expense for your sale?
So you mean, for the marketing of your product or service, what kind of marketing I prefer, you mean? So affiliate from the VC side.
Right, so I don't think VCs would mind that because it's more of an affiliate marketing thing, and that's adding value to the revenue which you will anyways going to generate, right? So they don't mind, right? They would probably want you to have more of these guys, right? More of these guys, so that you can do more revenue by tapping into strategic places, right? So people who understand your specific markets and have access to those customers, especially in the B2B space, right? So, and adding to that, I think from the investment side, especially when we are trying to raise funds in the early stage, right? Angel investors, I think that's the best place where you can probably tap into people are good influencers in those, right? So these are the best guys you should get as, I would not say investors, but enablers, right? These are the guys who will open doors for you at the right places. You can just go in, tell that guy, you will at least have an interview, and that's up to you how you are able to sell that product, right? But these guys, because they have most of these gray hair guys who have probably done a lot of things, right? CEOs and all those guys will be very good guys who can open a lot of doors for you, right? So I think the best guys you should tap into in your own red network, people from those sectors, right? Those are the best guys as an angel investor, and they understand the market also pretty well. So they'll be the guys who will also back you up. So the next round, you don't need to tell them that who are our angel investor, because these are guys who are influencers on respective places. And that's where actually, if you see the people who are entrepreneurs, right? So the Binny Bansals and all those guys are influencers now in the ecosystem, but there are other guys also, somebody from Oracle or IBM, right? All those kind of guys. Especially B2B, it makes a lot of sense.
Hi.
Actually,
My question is regarding Startup India, the government initiative. Do you think it has any logic? Because from whichever definition I try to understand, it's very confusing thing. The terms that they have laid out, it's very hard to meet. Now, before I have been raising subsidy for MSME, so there is a structure that you go to DIC, you apply, you get certificate, you take loan, you submit paper. Over here, I am not able to still make out exactly what is the process. You have to go to ministerial board, you need to take it from the incubation center. Now I really doubt what is the process. And it's in implementation from April 2016. So you guys are into industry. Have you heard any company actually being recognized as an official startup by the government?
See, there is a website where I think it's a DIPP website or somewhere where you need to list yourself. That's the first thing you need to do, right? So trust me, when I agree with you because I work with government officials every day. It's not Startup India, it's India Startup, right? So they are also trying to figure out what they need to do, right? For most of these government folks and also people who are running these incubators, right? It's the first time they're being literally forced to do things which they don't understand, right? So for us as entrepreneurs, it's easy because we know what we are getting into, right? They were literally forced to get into something which they don't know. Academicians have no idea, right? Correct. I have deans of colleges asking me that I have 5 crore fund, tell me what to do with this 5 crore. They don't know, have a clue. But so I think we will evolve over a period of time, right? Things will evolve. So there are good folks, right? Who we are. So there are people like me, there are people like NASCOM, iSpirit, all these guys. We all are trying to educate the government folks also so that there is simplification in terms of the things which they are asking for. And there are so stupid, trust me, they're asking for stupid things, yes. Right? Even if I'm getting recorded, I don't care. but they're asking for a lot of stupid things because they have been doing this for ages. Yes. And they are not changing. So the evaluation will happen. I think in the next 6 months, you will see a lot of changes because a lot of ministers who have been entrepreneurs are basically the front-end guys, right? Jayant Sinha, Mr. Rudy, all these guys have been entrepreneurs themselves, ex-VCs. Jayant Sinha has been a VC himself. So these guys understand what is the ecosystem need, and they're doing a lot of changes while we speak.
Correct. Thank you.
I have a question on the valuations. Right now, is there a way you derive a valuation based on the revenue?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Based on the revenue of a company, would you be able to derive a valuation? If I'm going to raise funds and I've already been there in the market for 6 months to a year and I've broken even already, how would a VC evaluate the value of my company based on the revenue? Is there a formula that they use to arrive at a valuation based on my revenue?
All right. So I'm not an analyst, but I'll try to give you some information that I at least see happening in the methodologies that VCs normally use. One is DCF, discounted cash flow, as a methodology that they use. You know, when you are already generating certain cash and they forecast, you can, based on the current model that you're using, you can forecast some cash flow that's going to come in the next few months. You know, so based on that, that is one way of valuing your company. Another that they normally use is market multiples, in which you are in probably a little bit of a hybrid model, where you do not have too direct a competitor in the same space. Then they try to look into other countries, other markets where you have similar players in the market. So they're using this as a methodology also. They try to bring up to a certain, get to a certain valuation. Now said that, I personally feel that early stage companies, the valuation is always a range. Like even when you use DCF, there's an aggressive, there's a moderate, and there's a conservative number that comes in. So normally, what I have seen personally is that an entrepreneur will definitely have an aggressive valuation. Investor will most certainly have a very conservative number coming in there. And then finally you negotiate on that. I mean, depending on how strong you are at negotiations, you come to a moderate number on which you agree on to, and do that. But another thought that comes to mind is when you go for a valuation that is too aggressive, normally that's a big problem area for you because now you are raising a fund at a very high valuation of yours, pre-valuation, and then you're not able to commit to that in the next milestone. You say that, I'm going to be making this much of revenue in the next 8 months, 10 months, 1 year, 2 years, and then you're not able to reach there. That becomes a big issue for you to raise the next round. So in some cases, you do have to raise next rounds. If you don't have to raise next round, that's the best part. But in case you do have to, that becomes a major issue. So now you would also like to add?
I think I agree with him actually, and at the of course we use discount cash flow or the multiple, both sides we use, but at the seed level or very early stage, the fundraising and valuation is not like a science actually, it's more like an art, right? It's gonna be, how can I say? For example, we invested like more than 200 companies in Japan and Southeast Asia, right? So we have some data of what kind of business can be grow in what kind of pace, and what kind of business can be grow up to this stage, but it's gonna be saturated in from this side. So from this type of database, we just put some range. Okay, at this stage, this type of B2B SaaS business, it should be like this range. For example, like 2 to 2.5 million post money would be a good range. But it's not, there's no formula to, calculate, okay, it should be 20 to some, there's no formula to, calculate the valuation actually. So, and also as he told, I think, putting too much high valuation will be bad for actually raising the next round, for the Series A, Series B, because, you have to, because, you can't do the down round, down round is really bad, so you have to, keep up to the next round, right? So it's gonna be hard to get the next round. And also, if with a really low valuation, but you need for example, okay, really big money, saying diluted too much, it's also really bad for the next round. So just calculate, how much money you guys need for example, next 12 months or 18 months, and how you guys are going to use this money, and raise the, the minimum amount you guys really need for this 12 to 18 months to grow to this stage, and then you calculate the dilution, the sufficient number of the dilution, then you can get the your size reasonable valuation, right? And then you guys can negotiate with the the VCs and also the angels actually.
Sorry, just to add to this, we were talking about the documentation part earlier. And most people think that documentation is only for investors, whereas it is not. I mean, okay, fine, you do it for the investors as well, but you normally do build a business plan, you do build your financials to understand as to which direction you're taking. The research is not just for the investors, but it's for yourself as well. So when you do these kind of exercises that we have talked about, it actually helps you to understand better the whole business from your perspective as well, as to where you want to take it from there, right? So the valuation, the monthly burn rate that you're talking about, how do you come to that now? This is part of the financial model, right? So how do you understand what your monthly burn rate is? You might just expend too much of money on the marketing side. Or do you want to control that? How many people are you adding at which stage? Do you want to add 10 developers right now, or probably in the next 6 months? 2 investors, 2 coders right now, probably 3 testers in the next 3 months, and so on. So all this requires a lot of planning. So this is where the planning comes into play. And if you have done this planning all for your business already, and this will of course change. I'm sure, it has changed in your case, it has changed in most of the entrepreneurs that I know in their cases. So it will change, but at least create a basic structure that will actually help you to take these kind of decisions better. So I personally know people who have diluted 40% equity, and I'm kidding you not, 40% equity for raising 1 CR. So it's very important that you do not do that. And now if the company is looking at raising, let's say, in the next 10 CR in the next round, what is the possibility that they will not be kicked out as a CEO?
So the Paytm guy, just to give the 40% thing, reminded me the Paytm guy, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, raised 8 lakhs for 40% dilution. Right, yeah, this was 2002, so right, and the guy who had 40% sold that 40% for 110 crores 6 years down the line. Right, so people do their mistakes, right? Paytm is there where he is, but Vijay has made his set of mistakes, and I think everyone would do.
So question is, from an investor perspective, what is the average time one would budget for, right from the time I think I need money to the time I get money, right? So even from a legal perspective or from even the due diligence and even the funding perspective, if you can just give us an idea about that, so that way, we know that this is probably an average time. I know it might differ for different companies, but if you have an average number, and also anecdotally, probably what was the shortest funding cycle that you've had, and what's the longest? If you can just talk about that.
I've usually seen anything between 1 month to 2 months, in terms of the diligence process. It can probably, in some cases, go beyond that as well. If, like we said, the pre-diligence is done really well, from all the three perspectives, business, financial, and legal perspective, then it becomes a little easier for them to go through that, validate that, and transfer the money into your accounts. But normally, on an average, I've seen it takes at least 1 month, 1 to 2 months is on an average is what I've seen.
Yeah, the 45 days is when you get the money, right? So that's minus that. I think it will take you 3 to 6 months, right? So you need to prepare yourself 3 to 6 months in advance when you're trying to raise. I've seen people getting funds in 15 minutes also, right? And I've seen people not getting any money because they were not ready, right? So give an example. There was a friend of mine. He's a PE guy. First time he was traveling in the Delhi metro, taking his kids for the first time. So there was this guy standing with his startup, standing with a t-shirt, right? So the kid asked, what's a Shipsy? So the company name is logistic company, if you heard of Shipsy guy. The photo of Shipsy was there. What is the ship doing in the metro? Right? So this guy explained the business model to a 7-year-old so well that this guy said that, why don't you come down to my office? Next day, he walked out of a 50 lakh check. Right? So things can happen. So I keep telling founders, right? You need to have your elevator pitch ready, right? You never know what can happen where.
And does that differ between seed to Series A?
When you have done seed with the right guys on board, right, you don't need to worry about Series A, because then those seed guys, because they have put in their money also, right, they will ensure that their money is saved. Right? So your most of your time, right, effort will go to find right guys on the seed level, right? Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, I have a question. My name is Shrikant. It's been a pleasure hearing you guys talk. My question is mainly directed to the VCs inside. If I could be wrong, but my question is, how risky are you as a VC on risky ventures out there? Now, if you look at the top 5 companies out there in India today, most of the product lines, again, I could be wrong, so I'm not trying to be arrogant. Most of the products out there either exist or they're a kind of a replication of with slightly moderate, like a few modifications of an existing product, either overseas or here. I'm thinking that you know what I'm talking about, right? So their business models, on the other hand, are pretty slapstick, right? Now, if you were given a product that has an element of risk in it, right, but has been proven to a test run that it is really sticky. The revenue model is innovative, but it has an element of risk in it. How risky are you as a VC to invest in it? So my question is 2-part, just to split it off. 1, is that because you don't find ventures like that in India? Or is it just an approach that VCs have in general that get founders to come out and raise funds in that particular fashion to tweak their product?
So I think I missed some parts of your question, but no. Okay, so you mean from the VC side, how you risky to put the money into such a kind of venture, you mean?
Yes. I mean, you know that the product could be risky, but if it works, it clicks, right? But most of the products that you see out there today are products that are already existing in other markets. So you know it's a safe bet, right? So the risk involved there is how much money you're investing in there. You spike up the valuation, and on that valuation game, now you're worried about the risk that is involved, to a point where most of the companies have got, one company's got their valuation slashed thrice, right? So my question is, forget the valuation, right? The revenue model will obviously have some element of risk in it, but if you have a product that is that risky and hasn't been done before, of course you'll have competitors, but it is brand new, first to the market. How risky are you for that opportunity?
I actually prefer such a kind of business, because if some similar business is existing in this Indian market, and if somebody is raising so much money into it, and sometimes valuation is going high, but I don't personally don't like to put the money into the followers. So I really want to put the money into the front runners. So even if it's maybe risky, so I'm going to lose all the money, into the business, but if I can validate this one has a market and the product is really good and the team is really good, then I'm going to put the market, because this is actually the role of the seed investor, right? So I'm going to do that. So don't worry about it. But of course, the product should be good, and if the product match to the market and the market size is good, then no problem to do that. But on the other hand, if the service or business is already validated in the US or, for example, in China or wherever, in the big market, and this type of business is not existing in this market and replicating this model into this market, then also it's going to be really good for me to see the business, because it's already validated in the big market in the overseas and nobody is doing it here. Then it's going to be, it's really nice opportunity to put the money, right? So these things. So some, disrupting idea which fit to the India, then, even if there's no such a business existing in the world, it's going to be fine. But also, on the other hand, if there's some validated business existing in the US or China or wherever, then replicate it into this market, then it's going to be fine. But what I don't like usually is, okay, this business is, already, this guy and this guy is, raising the money and, growing. So really similar service, but, slightly different approach to, tuck into the same market, then it's going to be really follower approach. So I really don't like, this put the money into this type of followers. So I really wanted to put money into the front runner in Indian market.
Right. So sorry, one last question. So if you're looking at it from a Japanese standpoint, right now, the amount of investments that you've made in India per se, is it because you don't get startups of that sort?
What do you say?
In India, right? Probably the portfolio that you have here, and there are companies that probably from a Japanese standpoint that you would invest in India. Are you not getting companies of that who are coming out with disruptive products? Because if I take the top 10 startups today, apart from a few of them, I don't find any disruption in there, right? So is that because of the existing startup ecosystem in India? Or is it because that ecosystem is also influenced from VCs who do not take that risk, is my question.
This is really hard to answer, actually. It's definition of definition of disruptive or definition of the innovation itself is really hard to define, actually, in my point of view. Yeah, like unicorns in here is really, for example, like some e-commerce companies or some others, of course the similar companies existing in US or in Japan or China or wherever, but still, there, some innovative way to adapt the business into this local market in India, right? So this is gonna be, it's okay to do that, but I think some like disruptive or like innovative companies are for sure coming from India, because you guys have so smart engineers, so many numbers of smart engineers in here, and now you guys have access to the overseas world as well, so you can access to the other market as well. So I think organically in here, really disruptive product. It's maybe it's hard to be in here, but you can access to the other overseas markets as well. So I believe it's coming into the marketing soon. And as an investor, I'm willing to put the money into such a kind of ideas. And also for like Southeast Asia and into Japan, of course we as an incubate fund we can help you guys to go into this kind of market. So
Just wanted to add on that. 2 points to it. So first, Rocket Internet, Food Panda. Rocket Internet, Food Panda. So when Rocket Internet typically does this, and it's on their website itself, that they try to see which are the models which have worked out well in US and China, and then implement it in a lot of other countries. Now Food Panda came out, we thought it will really disrupt the ecosystem, it will become really big because it has done well in some of the other countries. It didn't do as well. So sometimes it's important for you to see which other markets, are these other markets where they have these kind of business models have done well, similar markets or the advanced markets? What are the mobile penetration? There's so many attributes to it, So that's the diligence that a VC definitely does before they look at investing into some of the companies which have done in the other markets. Second point being, I don't know whether you guys have seen this or not, but it's a phenomena that I've seen for quite a few years now. At our places, some of us, when we have grown up, we have seen our mothers go to these sari shops, cloth shops, and the touch and feel of the fabric, ki chhune ke baad hi we'll decide whether we want to buy this or not. It's an evolving ecosystem in India. If you see the difference between Valley and the Indian ecosystem from a VC perspective, they do require a proof of concept, or they, at least it has now evolved. I mean, initially what I used to see is they require a proof of concept, proof of market, and then they would probably take that risk to you. And I mean, the risk is still there, but they would invest. Now that's changing. I've seen quite a few VCs who are looking at very disruptive technologies coming into play. AR space, VR space, IoT space, industrial IoT and all. So many different spaces. Even in alternate lending, I've seen some of the really interesting companies, disruptive companies, sorry, not interesting. Disruptive companies who are coming with something very, very interesting, and the VCs jumping onto those companies to invest into them. They want to be the first people to invest and get a share in those companies. So it's changing, the mindset is changing, and then I see a lot of disruption happening in the country. Probably they do not want the information out yet. A lot of these companies are in stealth mode, and that is why we see a lot of competition in the VCs who are actually trying to, the analyst call that Ankur was talking about, right? So these are the analysts who are trying to figure out who these stealth mode companies are so that they can probably catch them early and invest into them as early as they can. So that's the trend that I'm currently seeing.
Just the last thing, just to add to what you said, this is more specifically to do with my company as well. So, my partner Shrikesh, we're running a company that hopefully we think is a product that could be disrupted. Now, when we went for our seed, we went through some issues like this. We finally found a couple of people who really saw the future of the product, and we've got our seed now. The point where we tested the product and realized it is spot on. We were on stealth mode as well.
Right.
No one was out. But my question to you is, on what situation am I in today when I tested the product and I know it sticks? In 98 hours of being live, I've got 6 minute downloads. I can't repeat it. So, that being said, I'm looking for my next round coming in by December, Jan, because my current seed, I'm only taking for 12 months, money that I need. So you wouldn't see this in the papers either.
Right.
So what position am I in if I not just give you my targets saying that the test round was this successful, these are the targets that we're coming out, we're hitting it. But this is what we're raising in the future. And the element of risk is always there. But this is how much equity we want to give out, etc., etc. If you find a product like that, how investable am I is my question. Because I fall under that 10% bracket that you were talking about.
You definitely are investable. Why wouldn't you not be? I mean, you just got funded. There's heat in the product right now. There's heat in the map right now. And, there are people who would definitely be going with a herd mentality. I shouldn't say this, but yeah. So there would be people interested. If a Vijay Shekhar Sharma says that, boss, I am investing 1 CR in this company, I wouldn't know the other investors, but there would be 5 other investors who would just say, okay, why not me? Even I would like to participate in this round. थोड़ा बहुत equity देख लेते हैं कैसे होती है, but let me also participate. Similarly, and there are 2 aspects to it. One, if you already have a bandwidth or runway for 1 year, probably try to focus more on the product for now, getting established, and then after a few months, start working on it. And you already have, if you have got a couple of really good strategic investors on board, then probably these are the guys who would also be able to take it and talk very specifically to few people who can come on board for the Series A. But my suggestion would be that instead of starting working right now, when you have 1 year, probably you can push it by another 4 months and then start looking at the funding aspect of it. You can, yeah.
Shrikant, I think Shrikant, right? Shrikant, I think you've raised funds for disruption and not raised funds for funds.
Yeah, the whole point is that we have products coming up which we can't add up.
No. So that's what I think you need to create some numbers, right, which you are confident about, and it could be, let's say, 3. You have 12 months funding. But probably you can look at after 6 months, you can start talking to people, right? So never stop talking to people. Right, so the active fundraise can happen after 6 months, right? The relationship can be built over time. But yeah, if I will be in your stage, I probably will spend more time in my lab working on ideas rather than networking, because I already have money with me, right? I don't need to look at things. But probably spend once 2 weeks, you can come out, meet people, right? You know what is happening, right? So that's my personal advice, right? Because my business is people business, so I'm supposed to get into events and do that, right? You're supposed to do something else, which is building more of your products, right? So spend more time there, right? Less time here, and build your products. And I think now probably will be there after 6 months with a check.
Yeah. It's just Oh yeah, just exchange your card and I can visit your lab. But I really agree with him actually. At this stage, it's gonna be better to focus on the product. And if the product, because you already have a sufficient amount of money to survive, right? So you can focus on the product, and if you guys brush up the product and you got some numbers or some clients or whatever, it's gonna be better in next 2-3 months, right? Then you can negotiate to investors with more confidence, right? It's gonna be more better terms probably, or better investors coming in to contact you. So yeah, at this stage, I think it's gonna be better to focus on the product and But I'm going to contact you, but but anyway, yeah.
I think we. Thanks.
Yeah, I have a question to you and to you. Yeah, bye. See, we are a total bootstrapped company. So why I asked to you guys, because you have worked with closely with investors. So if the company is bootstrapped, totally bootstrapped till now, and has a good amount of traction as well as revenue hand in hand, okay, and it's a B2B platform. So they have not raised any angel investing, okay, investments, sorry. And so from the investors' point of view, investors' perspective, is it a bad point or is it a negative point? Can you guys give us some?
No, I think it's a great data point for investors. But the only thing which I would recommend is do your homework before you even go to any investor. Right? There are very specific investors who look at B2B. Right? So every investors don't invest in everything. Right? So while you're trying to identify the right guys, you need to do your homework that which investors invest in which kind of sectors, right? Because there will be very few who will probably look at healthcare only. There are very few probably who are looking at consumer tech only, right? I'm not sure about now, but the usual trends are that people look at different sectors because the LPs or the people managing it understand these sectors very well, right? So you do need to do your homework. But if you have revenues and if you have the right numbers, I don't think that will be a challenge. Until unless these guys have already so if you've done your homework right and reaching out to these guys, if they don't find any fault, I think you probably should get investment in the next month or so.
With angel or without angel, it's actually doesn't matter. Before as a seed investor getting to touch to you, we already angels are invested to you or not. It actually doesn't matter for me. So even if it's a bootstrapping and but bootstrapping and already getting a revenues and some tractions, it's really actually good thing, right? Without anybody's help, you guys are already getting the revenues and
Why are you looking for our money then? Why aren't you looking for debt, or why aren't you growing your own company to even more, getting more revenues from the next set of customers? So that question might come. So anything you can say?
I think that's an answer which you need to find, because if you're doing your startup, as I was telling Shrikant also, if you're doing startup right for creating and solving a problem statement, right? Creating a value and solving problem statement. You don't need VC money or anything, right? If you're able to, and I think that's the way everybody else has made. VC money is become more sexier today, right? People do startups for funds today, right? But the best piece is where you're able to do revenues, right? I was with Naukri.com earlier, right? So even though these guys had 300 crores in the banks, they never touched those 300 crores. And I'm talking about 2000, right? ICICI Ventures funded them 300 crores. They never touched, I think they still have those 300 crores. And I think they've returned in after the IPO. They were bootstrapped, they were making revenues, and they keep adding more staff, sales guys, and they keep building more and more, right? So that's the way I think the businesses should be run, right? And that's a good question. Actually, you should think why I need that money. I think that's very important. If you have the question that, yeah, with this 1 crore, I can probably do 3x of what I can probably do while I'm bootstrap, then you can probably give that logic, right? So and prove that with data points, right? So the answer is with you. You need to just think over it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Amit here. You have 10 cars, you've proved a concept through 10 cars. Now you want 200 more cars and you really need a whole lot of extra features to come on your app or your platform. And for that, the money that you're earning right now is very limited. But now that because the 10 cars is the 10 car business is doing well, you know, there are other competitors who are just trying to do the same thing, and these are bigger players in the market. Then you get this thought, yaar, if I also have another 12, 15, 18 odd crores extra, I might be able to push for that and fight for it. You know, I mean, this is one of the reasons. I mean, this could be one of the things. You know, there could be a lot of other reasons. But just for the sake of raising extra money, if you're raising money, obviously a VC will not. So you have to have very tangible and clear attributes as to why you are raising the extra fund.
They've traveled a bit of journey, right?
Yeah.
So they are not looking just to raise money for the sake of raising it. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Most companies won't go for that. They will only need to scale up and grow the number of users and to at least 5x of revenue.
But why would you like to lose some equity when there's no threat? If you know there's no other competitor, you know you're doing well on your own, probably organically you'll be able to make it to, let's say, if not 5x, you'll probably be able to make it 1.5x, 1.8x, 2x by the end of the year. That would be a better route to take because you're not losing your equity, you're not diluting your equity. But if you think there are other players who are coming into the market for an entrance, or probably there are other barriers to it, and that is where to ensure that those barriers are moved out and you have to really scale up that fast, it's really pertinent. Then you go, I mean, this is the reason that Amit just said, right? That you have to think through it as to what could be the right reason. You know, because if there's logic in it, I don't think so any VC would say कि नहीं यार मुझे logic समझ नहीं आ रहा है तो मैं नहीं agree करूँगा. But logic है, I'm sure most people will try to understand, comprehend कि क्या logic है. And if there's a need for it, they would also like, they'll be, as I said, you know, VCs are very competitive these days. They'll be more than happy to invest into you if you have a right logic and right reasoning behind that.
Right. So the other thing which I probably would like to add is that you can have a seat. So as entrepreneurs, we also need to understand our own limitation, right? I can't be a Binny Bansal, right, or a Sachin Bansal. My limitation is I just want to probably do 3 lakhs a month, and I'm happy doing it, right? So if you understand your limitation, right, that's where you have this line which says that, yeah, I will probably happy doing a boutique business, or I have the capacity, capability, and I have this crazy product which can go 100 crores, 200 crores, right, across the globe. So depending on what you want, and not 10 years, but at least a year or 2 years down the line, you can do your maths and see if you need funds or you still want to remain bootstrapped, right? It's totally your call, right? It's best with nobody sitting on your head asking for metrics and all that, right? Nothing against the VCs, right? But these folks also need to see that if you're doing the right things to ensure that they get ROI out of it, right? So, and without VCs, you are happy, you're doing whatever you are at your own pace and you keep experimenting. So it's totally your call.
I'll just add to it. So nowadays, a fundraise is considered to be validation of what you are working on. It is not the case, right? So you don't need to raise money to prove to somebody that, you know, your business is validated. That isn't the case. So you need to raise money only when the business needs it. Otherwise, you don't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. I think so.
One last question.
Okay.
Good evening, friends. I am Madhu Nag Shetty, represent a tech-based startup called Techities. So we are going to launch a company by July 5th. We'll be service aggregators. So I'd like to pick it up from where my friend left. So we are bootstrapping. So we are at grassroots levels connecting with the service providers. So we had expected a certain kind of response, but it has been overwhelming. It has been better than we have expected. Now we are gaining enough confidence that this particular concept can be expanded globally. Now I want to know from the legal advisor's point of view, from the investor's point of view, and from the point of view of the person who has been through it all now, and from the point of view of the mentor. So at this particular point of time, what would be better for me in terms of scalability?
I think before they jump in, I think it's more to do with more validation to what you're trying to do, right? The way VCs work or the way companies work, right? You need to validate and justify the investment which you're trying to do in terms of time and effort and money in one region first, you are able to capture it, and then the money will follow. So the funds will automatically start following you. The validation is not something which says that, yeah, it's very good, मैं काम करने को तैयार हूँ, right? Until and unless these guys who are committing, the service guys, right, you are aggregating, are ready to put some money in your pocket because you are helping them, right? Till the time there's a huge bunch of these guys doing that, it's still not validated from the little I know about the way businesses work, right? So that's very important. Then you can take the next plunge and say that, yeah, I want to go, let's say, so the way Zomato work, right? Zomato, and I was part of that thing. So Zomato raised their money from Naukri. So what Zomato did, they came to the Naukri guys and said that we are in Gurgaon, we want to expand to, so that's 30% of NCR. We want this X amount of money to capture NCR. Then when they did that, they said that we captured NCR, which is 20% of India. We want to raise more money so that we capture India. Then when they did India, then they said, they then never asked Naukri guys, they started their London and Dubai offices, right? So that's a risk which they took, and it paid well for them. So you need to take the small steps, and big, you can't just go global. It will not, trust me, it has never worked for anybody. The biggest, I think the biggest of companies have started small, validated a lot of things, and then you'll probably find a lot of places where you can make money, right? But you need to also see where you should making most of your money, then get into more details of it.
You mean you guys are the aggregator of the service, right? Service means plumbers, electricians, this type of business. Okay. Actually, I was running really similar service in Delhi. Okay. My service is actually, aggregating plumbers, electricians, carpenters, house cleaners. These are like, service vendors and service professionals. And why we started this business is because, in India, service quality of the vendors are really, really fragmented, Some people are coming on time and do the business in one day, really professional, neat and clean, but some people are late for 3 hours. And, they can say, okay, I can do, but they actually cannot do. These type of, things are really stressful. So we actually searched like 400, vendors in Delhi and Gurgaon and checked them the quality, S rank, A rank, B rank, C rank on this matter. And we are connecting these like really good service quality vendors into the users by chatting system. We were running this type of business in Delhi and Gurgaon actually. First, at the really first stage, we started the business. I talked to some accelerators and also some angels in Delhi. One thing that everybody said to me was actually, validate the business in really small scale. And what's the focus? And for example, one accelerator told me, okay, you guys have said you guys are differentiated from other service, aggregator in the way of the service quality, right? Because we committed to on-time service. And if our professional late for like more than 15 minutes, we are refund everything. No others are committing this type of things. Urban Crab, House Joy, they didn't commit this type of things. So, but this is fit to only to like really rich people who can pay extra money into this type of on-time service. Or like we are first targeting to the expats community. It means like Japanese, Korean, these foreigners living in Delhi. So they asked me, okay, you are targeting this segment, and so please get like at least like 100 orders in this month from only this segment of community. From Japanese community, it's okay. So get the 100 orders from this and get the feedback from them and validate the business. This is actually the one thing. And the other thing is, we were trying to do all the segment of the service from the beginning, but it's really, really hard to do. So what's the focus area? In which areas we have to be the number one? We have to decide this. So first we started with really 20 categories or so in this business and testing with the Japanese community. And one category is actually we got the most order is actually house cleaning and plumbing. So we focused on these like only 2 categories at the beginning, and we trying to penetrate. We want to be the number one in this categories. So this type of validation of the business in really, really small scale and focusing on one or two, segments, gonna be really, important to, start. Then, once the business is validated, all the investors and, some other mentors will be coming into your business at really serious, tension. So, validation of the business at really small scale and, focus area, which area you guys are focusing on, I think it's gonna be really important from my personal experience, actually.
So, in my opinion, you need not focus on expansion early on in your days. You need to prove your business at a very local stage until unless your market locally is very small. If your market locally is big, you need to build that, reach to a saturation, and then move out to the other cities or the globe. Spreading too thin is never good.
You wanna add to it or?
I would ask you offline and I'll ask you what's your differentiator. So we'll take it up offline.
Right, so thank you so much. I think it was valuable inputs from everyone here. And thank you so much. You've been a very patient audience for 3 years. Thank you.
Thanks everyone on the panel. Small giveaway for all of you.
Yeah, and thank you, Citrus, for doing this event, right? And giving us these goodies.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharanya. Thanks now. Thanks, Ritesh. Thanks, Abhay. We have arranged some snacks for everyone. It's in the pantry. And if any of you are looking out for a payment gateway, you can reach out to us who are in the Citrus t-shirts. Maybe we have a good offer for you guys, and you'll hear from it in the thank you mails as well. Thank you. Snacks are ordered from payto.in, and Ritesh is here. So it would be great if you could share your feedback as well.